Hello and welcome to the FBAW mini-series highlighting important pieces of research about family businesses from the MENA. FBAW is a platform that seeks to support and enhance research about the family enterprise in our region and was co-founded in 2018 by the Sheikh Saoud bin Khalid Qassimi Chair of Family Business at the American University of Sharjah and the Tharawat Family Business Forum. My name is Farida Agamy, and I am here today with FBAW co-founder Professor Rodrigo Basco to discuss today's topic, resilience. And we will do so by looking at the recent STEP and KPMG study called Weathering the Storm, Family Firm Strategies in the Midst of Growing Uncertainty. Rodrigo, great to be here with you and discussing this topic together.
Thank you very much, Farida. I will try to give an overview of the research project and the main result. Just to give one number, 84% of the firms that we surveyed, they declare or reported that their revenues decrease. That's a very huge impact. Just take a look at the last news that we read about Al-Futtaim. Al-Futtaim said that 7% of their revenue decreased 7% annually during the pandemic. This is a huge impact for our society, for our business. So the question that we asked in STEP and with KPMG was how family business survived to the COVID-19 pandemic and what we can learn from them. Actually, this question brought us to think about the family business resilience. For example, if we start thinking about a firm like WJ Towel, the Omani family, they born in 1886, and the question is how these family firms or any other family firms are able to survive longer and to face and overcome different kind of external shock. The pandemic was an external shock. What we discovered that family business, yes, they use or apply three main actions in order to overcome the pandemic. Yes, the first was the recovery memory. What does it mean, recovery memory? Recovery memory is the knowledge management about what happened in previous crises to apply to the new situation, in this case, pandemic. And this is very common in family business because we transfer this knowledge from one generation to another. Yes, through what? Through conversation, stories. Yes, so these kind of things help the current generation to address the problem. Very, very interesting is to know maybe they are applying the same action that the previous generation, or maybe not, is what we learned in the past, we are trying to use with the same philosophy in the new situation that was unique, the pandemic. So that is the first dimension, is to wake up this DNA that family firms has for this knowledge management. No? But this is not enough, because the second element is how to deal with the short-term decision making. And what does it mean, the short-term decision making? Is the pandemic affect our financial statement, we can say, because we have a reduction in our revenues. It means that we have to face, or we have to make a decision fast in order to adjust our company. Mainly it was related with cost reduction, operating decisions or cost decisions, administrative cost decision, and labor. And actually this is the most difficult, is how to adjust the labor cost to the new situation. For family business, we can say it's a painful decision. But family firm has one advantage, is that employees trust in the family business leadership. So they trust that today's decision that could be painful for them yes, because of the reduction of salary, because of the stop of the promotion, because of they are losing certain kind of advantages, but it means that for the future, yes, it's better for them. So, for example, there is a very, very nice example here in a MENA region about the new firm. Yes, what happened with the CEO? At the very beginning of the pandemic, they decided to reduce 30% of the salary of the employee. What is could have a huge impact in the culture of the firm, no? In how people they will behave. But I think people behave in the best way to say, okay, we have to accept today pain for the future gain. So after five months of the pandemic, during the pandemic, when the situation, this uncertainty that the pandemic created, the new stabilize the situation and give back to the employees the 30% of the salary cut, we can say. That's very incredible, no? Because we are talking about this stewardship leadership that family firms are able to implement. And the third dimension that family firms are implementing is more strategic action. What they are doing, yes, in order to reposition their firm within the market. So there are mainly two strategic actions. One was pivoting, and the second was freezing. Yes. What is a pivoting? Pivoting is we have this situation, we have to look for new revenue stream for our firms. What we can do, what kind of opportunity pandemic is presenting in order to, yes, to have a new, yes, a revenue stream and to stabilize the situation or to have a new business. Yes, this is one action. It's very entrepreneurial action. And the second action is more freezing, is more status quo. We will wait. We will freeze our operation because of the situation, or we cannot do anything. That is too extreme. That actually is not good or bad. It depends on the decision making. But what is important is the third strategy that could combine with pivoting or with a freezing strategy. And that says a social strategy. How family firms that are embedded and locally embedded, they reacted in order to help, to attend, to overcome the social needs. No, it's just to help, for example, with some hospital, where the government could receive some help in order to organize the society and this particular condition. So I think it was very important to see how family firms implement this social strategy, even though if they are pivoting or if they are freezing. We have to recognize that those firms that they froze the operation, they were big firms with a certain kind of saving, we can say, in their financial statement, very well positioned that they could take this decision. No? And these are the three main dimensions how family firms were able to survive and overcome the pandemic. No?
Well, thank you so much for that summary, Rodrigo. I think it really highlights, on the one hand, the complexity of the situation that we have all been in. And I think the complexity of this situation has affected all family firms throughout all industries, whether they were, rashly affected or whether they were kind of more indirectly affected. And of course, we've both been observers of family businesses for many years now. Was there anything in the report or throughout the research that you've been doing with your colleagues on this topic that surprised you? With all the knowledge we have, sometimes I feel family businesses can still surprise us. Was there anything that you feel stands out from this report or from the data that you've generated from this report?
Yes, I think there is something that we can confirm, and always was said that family firms are able to transfer from one generation knowledge and ideas. But the question was, what kind of knowledge, what they are transferring, what does it mean, no, for a family and for the family's survival. It's true that there are, but I think clearly we saw in this during the shock of the pandemic is how the past story about the firm is help the current generation to consider that the pandemic was not just a unique with unprecedented effect in the firm. No, we observe firms with more than 100 years old, for example, they already face certain kind of pandemic, financial crisis, family crisis. And I think all of these crises and how the families survive to all of these crises help today the current generation to address the new situation. I think this is very important, no? What I want to say, just to summarize your idea, is family business resilience is not one action in a particular moment, is the story that we are building with our family across generation in order to survive.
I think that's an amazing point, because as you said, sometimes legacy is a loose, it's a very airy concept, and yet we hear it in every single session around family business. Every next generation hears the word legacy all the time, but when does it become tangible? And possibly this is one of those moments when legacy becomes a tangible asset that, you know, helps you in a moment of great pressure. So I think indeed that's a very, very interesting perspective. I always wonder, Rodrigo, and you know, you've obviously worked on family business research across the world, so you have a very interesting view of this region. Do you feel that family firms in regions such as the MENA are somehow better at reacting to this type of crisis due to the fact that some of us live in countries where volatility is kind of a daily occurrence? Now, usually it's perhaps not on a global scale like we had, so I think we were all surprised at the global scale of things. But I always wonder if you think that, is there a bit more muscle in these family firms in our region to react to these situations?
Actually, it's a difficult question to answer. My first reaction, and looking also the project that is globally, is not only a STEP project, develop a global project, not only in the MENA region. We can see that there is a common behavior among family firms across context. That's a very common characteristics, no? How they react and how the strategic position. What I would say that what kind of actions they implemented are more specific to the context. So, and that's what's important, no? For example, if I remember one family from Rwanda, no? Is the hospitality sector, one of the most difficult sector during the pandemic, because if you have a hotel, a restaurant, or whatever, it was during the lockdown. Yes, it was almost. So how the family used the family resources in order to leverage, yes, particular aspect of the business that they can still exploit. So that was an amazing, no? As a family, how we use family resources in order to leverage the activities that are still allowed in a particular sector. And I think that's very important. Another aspect that I would like to highlight is in the MENA region, maybe also in the Gulf, is the social strategy, no? Family firms very actively reacted in order to help government and local government to address issues related with the pandemic and to help those that were more affected by the pandemic. No? And I think I would like to highlight this a compromise with the society in our region. And the third element that maybe I would like to highlight is when we observe practices in this resilient model. In a family firm, most of the family, not all, most of the family, they use a top-down strategy in order to transmit to the organization where we have to go from here on. That's a little bit different, or there is a more variety in the rest of the global regions. We can say that they were also a bottom-up, no? That's I think is related also with the culture. That's very important here, this top-down perspective in order to address a situation. And it was very important, no? Like it's a part of how we address a situation.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, reading the report, it was really fascinating to see some of the facets that we know already exist in family firms, but how they have been amplified perhaps through the emergency of the situation. And I do think it also calls for more research into, you know, this layered behavior of resiliency in family firms, specifically in our region, because I think, you know, families that have been in countries where as we discussed just now, where volatility has been a constant and is actually even post-pandemic continuing or has even worsened, you know, how long can you keep that going? How long does resiliency last? And I think it's an important and a very critical question to be asked, specifically to understand the survival rate of family firms, you know, in our region going forward. So perhaps as a final question before we close our conversation, do you think something happened in this region to family firms during the pandemic that has irreversibly changed something for the future of these firms? Is there something, has something been unleashed? Has something been provoked? Has something shifted that you think has changed the way family firms will be in the future versus to if the pandemic had never happened?
I would like to relate with three crises that we had in the last maybe 10 or 12 years in the region. The first is all globally. The first is the financial crisis, 2008. The second is the oil crisis around 2014, 15, when the price of the oil dropped significantly. And now we have the pandemic, 2019, 20, the pandemic situation. And I think it's not only one crisis, it is the connection of these three crises show that how important it is to have a competitive model in our family firms is first. The second is how important it is to have in place a corporate governance structure in order to help family and the firm to survive, yes. And the third element in this sense is the succession. No? How important is to link generation through the succession, because this crisis could jeopardize the succession process. So, and I think that are three elements or three learned lessons that our family firms are taking from this crisis, and particularly with this last crisis that also is related, is a more social crisis, but with economic impact, no?
Absolutely. And I think, I mean, one aspect from a business perspective that perhaps we can add is obviously the push to digitalization. You know, I think there is, that will greatly affect our future, and almost every family business that we have spoken to has confirmed that, you know, projects that might have been on hold of digitalization that were in the pipeline for a long time have all been accelerated. So there might be an acceleration of a certain, let's say, commercial development as well that was in the pipeline that has probably been pushed forward a couple of years.
Yeah, I think that's a very important, and that's related with the business model that we have, how we are accommodating. A good example is Al properties. So they imagine that for them the pandemic was a huge effect. You cannot go and take a look at the property. So they created a web page quite fast that have 365 possibility to explore the property through internet with the platform, very interesting. And also they create an app, Algorand tenant app. So that's the crisis foster maybe something that they have in mind to implement. This is part of the business model. It's a very good example about how firms now they are accelerating, they are rethinking about the concept of the market and how they can use technology in order to be prepared for this or any other type of crisis that we don't know that would arrive.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Rodrigo, for giving us a very quick insight into a very deep study. We really would like to encourage everyone to read this study. We will make it available on all our websites and also on the FBAW.org website. You can download the report from there. And of course, we hope to bring you more quick insights into relevant studies from the region about family firms. And we're looking forward to continuing the discussion about the key points that we think we need to understand about family firms in the region. So thank you, Rodrigo, for being here today. And we're looking forward to our next part of the mini-series.
Thank you very much.